I've gotten a lot of people asking me to do a product review based on my Phantom over here, but I really don't feel comfortable giving a product review of this particular gun because this is an old gun. I've owned this since about 96 or so. Sounds about right. And I got it used and I traded an air tank for it. I got the better end of the deal. I'm sorry, Charlie. So doing a product review of the Phantom based on this particular gun is kind of like doing a car review based on a car you bought in the 90s. So not quite the same. But I can give you an overview of what's on my Phantom because it hasn't changed significantly enough to be a completely different gun, but it's not gonna be the same. So that's why this is not a product review as much as this is an overview. So actually I should mention first, I'm gonna be using the word gun a lot. Get over it. Political correctness means always having to say you're sorry, and I really don't look at it though. It's a gun. Much in the same way you've got confetti guns, staple guns, glue guns. Nobody throws hissy fits about those. Get over it. There, I said it, I feel better. Alright, so let's talk about the hard case first. This is old school, going hard case. Now the advantage, of course, is that you can beat it up and it's not going to affect anything that's inside of there. The downside is that it takes up a lot of space. But when you see somebody walking around with this, with all their equipment in this, that's old school right over here. You can get these at almost any sporting goods store. I got it at a Farm and Fleet, I believe, a couple of years ago. This is a Phantom from Component Concepts. I should have mentioned this earlier in the show, but I'll deal with it. This is currently set up for stock class play. Stock class play is this right over here. By stock class rules, you have to have a tube that feeds the gun, about 10 to 20 rounds I believe you can use, and the feed port must be parallel to the barrel, as you can see right over here. Now on the back you can kind of see the sock holder looking thing in the back there. That prevents balls from just rolling out the back. This is a 10 round size. They make up to a 15, and I think I actually have the 15 in there. If I don't, I have it in storage. But I don't like it because it always kept on, tapping me in the face all the time, just a little bit too long. And besides, 10 rounds is about perfect. Got a daisy sight right on the top there. It's a red dot sight. The battery in it's kind of dead right now because it got left on once. Oops. But this is a nice cheap sight, and actually I would recommend, if you're going to do something like this, I would recommend going cheap. Reason is that it hurts a lot less when this gets shot than if something that costs, say, $75, $100 gets shot. I think the only original piece on this might actually be this right here. I think. Everything else has been adjusted and changed over the years. So let's talk about the grip itself. This is a 45 grip frame. The grips themselves were made by Frymark. She used to do custom grips way back in the day, and the art was done by, I want to say, Badger. I think that was the name he's going by then, I believe. And they still do the 45 frames, so you can put any type of grips that you want on there. You can get real firearm grips, and that's fine. I also have, let's see, the air through. I got the ASA on the bottom with a microline to this right over here. I had to drill this because way back when they didn't offer that pre-drilled, so you had to do that at home. That was entertaining to do. And also the hard line right on the top over here. That's my personal homage to the old school because everybody had hardline back in the day. So that's the main body of the gun here. I'll get to the internals in a moment when I open up the rest of the case. The barrel. I'm using a, let's see if I can get that there, the Lapco barrel. Now, Component Concepts do sell these little rings that you can put inside of there, little sizer rings that prevents the balls from rolling out, so you don't need to buy a different barrel for it. I went with the Lapco barrels because I've always liked Lapco's products. They make a good product. So I've got this one, I got a couple more in there, I'll get to that in just a moment. Now let's get to the real fun stuff, what's inside the hard case. This is where you start to see the Phantom really come into its own because it's very flexible. You can get a couple of parts with it, carry it all in one place, and adjust to your needs. So I've got the two other barrels in here. Now the advantage of having three barrels like this, these are one-piece barrels. You can get them, of course, from Lapco. They make them for Phantoms in 3 different sizes. I just like having a solid barrel. That's just a personal choice because I remember way back in the day the old 2-piecers would snap on you, things like that. And a lot of the old barrel companies never made Phantom barrels in 2-piecers. So I've just always stuck with solid barrels. It takes up a little more space, but I've got the room in the hard case, so why not? I've also got one of these. This is a 12-gram quick changer. It screws into the ASA, and with about a spin and change, you can change the 12-gram out. Now, you'll notice the milling on this. This is not stock from Component Concepts. This one I got from Bad Boys Toys in Chicago way back when. And when I sent the gun in to get anode, I sent this in with it. And actually, I remember Mike giving me a hard time about that, saying, that's not one of mine. Yeah, it's not, you know. What I mostly do is I run modified stock. I put a tank on the back of it and just run the 10 rounds in there. I find that's just a little bit more cost efficient, good way to put that. You can fill your HPA tank once, you're good for the weekend. But 12 grams, that's more the puristic old school kind of style, and I like going 12 gram too. It's just a style thing, really, at that point. I've also got this right over here. This is a main body. This is a center feed main body, matter of fact. This is how you would run with a hopper on top of it. Matter of fact, the hopper I normally run with this is, you guys are gonna laugh, but I run a VL2000. And yes, I run with the electronic hopper on because I've outrun it at least once or twice. And actually, because of this, I also have this. This is a little ring. Fits on the hopper itself, on the feed neck, so that fits over here, keeps the feed neck nice and tight to this part. It's not going to fall off. Yes, Component Concepts has these things. If they don't, the old school way to do this is you go to an auto parts store and you look for hose clamps, ratcheting hose clamps. You can use those things to hold your hopper onto a center feed gun. It ain't pretty, but it works. Now, here's something else I got in here. Small bottle of lubrication. This is KC Trouble Free, right over here. And this fits really nicely in the gun case. This way I can get to a field if something's just not feeling right, something's not operating right, add a little lubrication, always works. Make your joke, I know you want to. The last thing I keep in my hard case, this right over here. This is a small fishing tackle box. You can get these any sporting goods store anywhere. And this is the best place to hold all of the small niggly bits that you're going to need. Now here's the detent rings I was telling you about that come from Component Concepts. You can get these, it'll prevent rollout from your gun. I've also got in here several small O-rings that you just need to have. Valve springs, the Nelson springs. I own so many of these things, it's not even funny. Thing is though, it comes in handy. It's good to have lots and lots of springs. Now there's a reason you need to have all these springs. You can get away with a basic set, but I've been collecting them for quite a while, so I just hold on to them. The way that it works, mechanically speaking, is when you pump the gun, what you're doing is compressing the mainspring and bringing the hammer, which is a piece right in here, forward. When you pull the trigger, you're releasing the hammer slams into the power tube pushes backwards against the valve spring, and a little bit of air comes out the gun. The valve spring then pushes it forward to seal it once again, and that's pretty much how the cycle works. I'm oversimplifying how Nelson-based guns work here, but you'll get the general idea of this. So because of this, you need to have a lot of springs because you can adjust the tension of the springs and adjust your velocity in very large numbers. So let's say that you are playing on a specific day, whatever the temperature happens to be, you're getting a velocity of 250 feet per second, and you need to get it a lot faster than that. What you would do is, if you're running something like this, you would have a stronger mainspring and a weaker valve spring, and you can get more velocity out of a Phantom. Now, of course, for those of you guys who are looking at this and saying, oh, that's not the right order for those, you'd be absolutely right, because this is a very heavy backspring, this is a very light mainspring. That's of course why I've got an entire box of springs, because you can adjust them on the fly. Now the gun itself, inside the bolt, you have one of these things right over here. It's an adjustable bolt. So you can take an Allen wrench, a long Allen wrench, or just take the barrel off and use a shorter Allen wrench, and you can fine-tune the velocity by pushing this little piece that fits in the bolt. And that basically compresses the mainspring just a little bit. And that's really good if you've got it like 275, but you really want to get it to 280. Crank it down. That's of course also why I have a bunch of these things. See if I can show you this on the camera. Right there. Those things are little lock nuts that hold this in place. What you are going to find is if you have a Phantom or you have a Nelson-based gun, you're probably going to have a big box of springs kind of like this. Actually, to pick on Nero for a moment, Nero's a friend of mine, lives in Chicago. He had, for a while, he had a tackle box, not just a small one like this, I'm talking a full-size tackle box that he called Springs and Things, specifically because you need them. And having variety is not bad in this situation. However, that all being said, now that I think about it, once you make a decision, stick with it. I've seen a lot of people just get completely frozen up of, oh, I need to get this perfect match of power tube to springs to this, and dude, if you got it in the zone, just play. Doesn't matter. You don't have to fine tune it exactly. Just go play. And that is the overview of my personal Phantom. Now, your Phantom that you're going to get possibly is going to be a lot different than this one. Like I said, this is an older Phantom. Matter of fact, one thing I do like about Mike Cassidy over at Component Concepts, is that if you call the company, you're probably going to get Mike on the phone. And if you talk to him, you're probably going to say, yeah, I want Tiger's setup, and he probably remembers it. Just because he actually cares about his company. So to that end, if you're interested in buying a Phantom, I highly recommend buying it directly from CCI. As much as I like the big warehouse companies, they're fine. I like to support the actual company that manufactures it, and he does sell directly. So go to the website, right down here, and you can check out all sorts of stuff like this. He also does really a big amount of custom accessories that fit right onto the Phantom. Actually, I shouldn't even mention that. True story about this. During Road Trip, the I-94 run, way back in 2001 or so, I played with this gun, and it started shooting kind of weird in the last couple sessions, but I didn't think much of it until I got home and realized that the valve, the power tube in the back, actually snapped in half, and the gun kept playing. She's a workhorse. So I think it's a really good gun. And it's good enough that I've held on to this one, and this is still my main go-to pump gun because it always works. It's always going. So there you go, the Phantom from Component Concepts. An overview. Like I said, the modern gun is probably going to be a lot different than this one, but this should give you at least an idea of what it's like and what's out there. So thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it.